All right, we are back. This is the one and only OSB Sports Podcast Show. Of course, I'm Scott Matthews, the host of the show, and I am going to be joined by my two co-hosts, the one and only CEO of the Sports Profits, Teddy Brooks. What's up, Teddy?
Not much. I'm going to have to take this goat hat off and give it to you because it sounds like you were, last 2 weeks, you took it down, Scotty. I got to give it to you, man.
Well, I'm looking to collect on that nice dinner at New York NYY Steakhouse from you guys because we made a bet on the show, and you guys got to live up to that one. And let's bring in...
Any negotiation on that one?
I think I'm going to go for the tomahawk.
I'm going to press Tommy. When I get there, the first thing I'm going to do, however much his dinner is going to cost, I'm going to put it on a hand of blackjack. So it's either going to cost me double or it's going to be free.
I'm going red or black on the roulette
There you
wheel.
go. There you go.
Here he is, guys, the one and only CEO of the OSB, the big kahuna himself, Tommy D. What's up, Tommy?
What's up? This the calm before the storm. Next week we got the big game, and we're going to talk a little about that. We're going to talk about the Lions basically folding like a cheap lounge chair, and there's a lot going on right now.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm jacked up because we're going to have a huge guest on the show coming up in our next segment. Alyssa Spivak from the Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship is going to be on the show. She is one of the top ring girls, and she's going to give us a little insight of what's going on with the Bare Knuckles. I'm pretty interested in stuff like that. I'll tell you, when I grew up as a kid, I was into the wrestling, WWE as a little kid. Then I went to the boxing, the UFC, and now it's about bare knuckles. So we're going to bring her on in a couple of minutes. Are you familiar with the bare knuckles at all?
I'm
Teddy?
not.
No?
I'm not.
Is that your thing?
No, a lot of people are into the UFC and bare knuckles. I'm an old school. I love watching boxing matches. Like, even though people hate it, I'll sit there and I'll pay for a Jake Paul boxing match just because there's not really much boxing these days, right? But I love boxing, but I don't know much about bare knuckle.
It's just hardcore, man.
These
This
guys
is
are
like
the real deal.
Yeah.
I mean, no gloves, man.
And they
We're
go-
talking, tough hombres.
I know
These guys are.
I know Jorge Masvidal is trying to do some stuff with a bare knuckle fighting league, but besides that, I don't know anything about it. I'm like a fish out of water.
Well, I think you guys got bare knuckled last weekend while I took the pot of gold with Kansas City and also on Detroit on the show.
and the
So
teaser, I mean,
everything
you
worked.
swiped it, and
Yeah,
and the teaser pulled through though. The teaser pulled through, and I did say I agreed with the teaser, but I got my clock clean the last 2 weeks. I crushed wild card round and then divisional and conference. No idea.
Only thing I hit was the over in the San Fran Lion game. Other than that, I mean, let's face it, wasn't for that last-minute score, San Fran would have covered. So it was a cheap.
Yeah, but they shouldn't even have gotten there. We both know that to begin with. I mean, they were getting dominated, 24-7 at half. I mean, a couple of key mistakes. Dan Campbell on the hot seat for a couple of calls he made in that game. But listen, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Detroit covered. Kansas City wins.
NFL won
Well,
these two teams.
Let me tell you
face it.
something. Let me tell you something. Dan Campbell, it was weird because the last play of the first half, he kicked the field goal. Normally he goes for the touchdown there. And then in the second half, he went for it both times. And, I mean, my group chat was just exploding. Everyone was like, what the heck is this guy doing? Especially the second one with 7 minutes left.
My group chat was exploding that I'd be the only one hosting this show this week because you guys were going to take off on me for that.
I
for
gotta
that
go.
steak
I gotta
dinner.
go drive Uber to pay for this dinner, man.
Well, listen, I really want to bring on Alyssa because
let's do it.
I'm really jacked up to find out from someone that's in the game, the experience of it, and who better to talk to than Alyssa herself. I want to welcome you on the show, Alyssa. She's with the Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship organization, and it's getting popular. How's it going? Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to, give you guys a little bit of insight of bare knuckle.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know what? Like I said, when I was a kid, I was into WWE. I grew up and I went into boxing and then UFC. Now I'm checking out these fights. I went with my son to a couple of fights recently at the Hard Rock. It's pretty hardcore. It's definitely a different look. How long have you been with the organization?
I've been with bare knuckle about 2 years now.
Okay. As a ring girl?
As a ring girl, yes,
Okay.
exclusively. No fighting for me.
No, we don't want to see that. You're too pretty for that. We don't want to see you in the ring fighting these guys. But yeah, no, it's a really interesting concept because These guys are like going right at it. There's no wrestling. They're hardcore fighting, one-on-one against each other.
Is it just boxing, or they use their
Yeah.
legs? What is it
No
exactly?
legs. No legs.
Yeah,
No.
so it's just bare knuckle boxing, exactly like it sounds. There's no grappling, no wrestling. It's different from the UFC in that sense. A lot of people compare bare knuckle to UFC, but it's just straight up boxing with no gloves.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you travel the country, like to the different venues? Like, are you part of like all the main events that they do around the country nowadays?
Yeah, for the most part, I do all the East Coast events, some of the
Okay.
Midwest, and we're expanding to the West Coast in this year, so I should be hopefully out there as well.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's a great experience for someone like yourself to get out there and see what's going on and be part of an organization that seems to be growing, right? I mean, it seems like it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I love it, and every show gets bigger and bigger. We're sold out this week at the Hard Rock on
Wow.
Friday, so it should be an amazing
Yeah, I
fight.
saw a top ticket, $600.
Yeah.
I mean,
600.
That's pretty pricey.
That's not big kahuna money. Come on, man.
Listen, you know,
Big
spend
kahuna
that
to
on, I
get
spend that on
ringside
lunch.
seats. You could be sitting
We're
next
going to
to the-
spend that on lunch after this.
There you go. No, I was also curious, like when they put these fights together and stuff, I mean, they do like once a month? Is it like almost like the UFC, like the main fights?
Well, the schedule depends on all the contracts and everything, but yes, we normally do about one a month. Whether it be here, we also have a lot of out of the country fights. We've got stuff going on in Bulgaria, Thailand, really all over.
And how many other like ring girls like yourself, top-notch ring girls, like to do the main events are with you? Like how many is there a pool of like certain women they choose from, or are you guys always the ones they take to all the big events?
Yeah, we have about 6 of us who pretty much do all of the shows, but we're always open to looking for new girls as well.
Okay. And is it, I'm sure you've been in the game, you said like 2 years with them. Have you seen changes as far as like in your position, like to become a ring girl? Is it tougher than it was obviously maybe a few years ago?
Yeah, so I did get pretty lucky. Back when I started, I was just kind of handpicked, but now we're doing what we call bare knuckle bombshell tryouts. So for our amateur fights, since we only do like the professional, the ring girls
The
that they
main
have.
ones, right.
We do tryouts, so we kind of put a public ad out there on all social media, and then we have a bunch of girls show up, try out, and then those girls who are chosen, they get to be the ring girls for the amateur fights, and then there's plenty of potential if they do well to be a bare knuckle ring girl at any of our professional shows.
So for like example, we got a big event down here, like you mentioned, at the Hard Rock. There'll probably be about 3,000-4,000 people, I would assume, in that event. They're going more in smaller venues, right, with this right now until they get the bigger names, and then they can bust it out probably when they bring in bigger names to get a bigger crowds, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely growing. I've seen the venue sizes grow, and the crowd sizes have been insane since I started The Difference. It's really amazing. We had a huge show last year in Denver, which was completely packed. I've never seen the crowd like that. Conor McGregor showed up to the fight. It was really
you should
epic.
show that clip, Ben, of Conor McGregor. I think he was staring her down a little bit from what I saw there. I was getting a little jealous. Conor McGregor right in the front there. There she is doing her thing.
Nice sign, Alyssa.
Isn't that him right there? And I think it's, I don't know if it's purple or pink shirt. Was he saying something to you?
No, he wasn't.
No?
But he did get in the ring and, make a little announcement. It was really awesome for that crossover. But we do see like so many people from the UFC crossing over now into bare knuckle. I think don't quote me, but I think it could be a little bit safer.
I saw Luke Rockhold, who used to be a champion, obviously a very good friend of mine, knows him extremely well. He's come over, I think, recently, right?
Yeah, he was in Denver actually at the fight I was talking about. He fought Mike Perry.
And he got
it was
good
a
money
really
for
great
that.
fight.
He got pretty good money for
Oh,
that.
I bet.
Because I hear some of these guys, they get like very small money, like $2,000 to $8,000. I mean,
$2,000.
UFC guys, yeah.
no, not UFC, bare knuckles.
Well, there's a lot of complaints about UFC fighters and what they're making also. I mean, that's what, if you see like Jake Paul
with Dana White
going
and
at it
stuff,
with
yeah.
Dana White saying, but Dana White says, hey, the business runs the way it runs and it can't run properly if we overpay the fighters. I actually have a question after seeing McGregor. Maybe you can answer it, maybe you can't. And I'm sure you're under contract with bare knuckle, but what if McGregor sees you and calls Dana White and says, "Hey, let's get this girl to be a ring girl for UFC." And does that ever happen where
That's another topic.
they try to pull you?
Definitely. Not specifically with the UFC, but a lot of our girls do
Jump?
other.
They do
Yeah,
jump?
we do a couple other brands. I've done some smaller fights and stuff
Are
like
you
that.
allowed to
but-
do that
So
though?
you're allowed to. That was kind of my
Yes, as
question.
of right now, yes. Maybe things will change once we kind of get
Because
more.
a couple of the top girls for UFC are gone now. They like the girls that were there from the beginning, like the real big one. I forgot the name, Ariani or something. She was huge.
right.
And then another girl just recently retired, young girl too. So maybe they're
Yeah,
looking.
it's pretty.
You might
They
get
give
a
you a
knock.
great opportunity. If Bare Knuckle gets big, we're gonna get big with them, and I'm excited for that.
I was just curious, how many events do you think you do a year, like
Probably
in different
about
cities and states?
7 to 8. I probably did last year. Yeah.
And that keeps you busy.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you have to go there like so many days in advance to prepare, or is it something that's like natural? Like
We go the day before weigh-ins,
Okay.
so we'll get there. I mean, we don't really have to do much prep except for what we do at home. I get my nails done,
right,
make
right.
sure I'm gonna look good.
Okay.
And then when we get there, we just kind of hit weigh-ins, and then the next day is the fight. So it's awesome because we kind of have a lot of free time too to explore these cities, and it's been like a really
Now,
great
is
opportunity.
it all expenses paid by them? I mean, not to get personal on your thing, but do they pay? They pay for obviously everything, right? While you're there.
They
and-
board us,
Right.
yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, listen, it's a great experience. You're in a new league, basically. They're starting to branch out. I think they're trying to get more TV contracts going.
Mm-hmm.
If they could pick a big net.
Is this pay-per-view, this event at the Hard Rock?
That I don't know. Well, maybe.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also just were recently bought by Triller, which is a huge company.
Yeah, I saw that Trillanet.
Yeah, so we're expanding a lot in that sense,
You know what I think's cool about the Bare Knuckles, different from everyone else? I don't even think you know this. They actually, on championship fights and bigger fights, they go, if it's a draw after 5 rounds, they go to a 6th round.
I love that.
They want
love
to win.
it.
They want a clean winner, which is no one else
Well,
is doing
yeah,
that.
because the problem with decisions, if you look at, I mean, half of the decisions that come out, people say,
They're ridiculous
it's fixed,
decisions.
it's fixed, it's fixed. So if you really want to eliminate that kind of stigma, maybe that stigma is not the word, but if you want to eliminate the kind of controversy,
Yeah.
just get rid of decisions.
Listen, you're going in there for, in case of the Bare Knuckles, 5 2-minute rounds. You're allowing yourself to get your ass kicked for 10 minutes. And if it's a draw, I mean, why have a draw? You know what I mean? Let's get to a decision. So I love the fact that they go to a 6th round. I didn't even know that until I spoke to Alyssa about
How
it the other
can't their noses be broken on every fight, if you think about it?
They train, they know how to.
Yeah, but that's another
defense.
question. They're training with no gloves. How's
Well-
that working
well,
out? Think
remem-
about it. At least fighters, they
Well,
have
don't they have-
headgear, they have gloves.
Remember-
These guys are going and hitting crazy.
Well, what I would say to that, Tommy, is they say in boxing and UFC, gloves are more for the protection of your hand than they are for the protection of the other person's face. When the force of the punch is enough, it's going to do the damage, glove or no glove. The gloves are really more to protect the hands of the person who's throwing the punches. So I think that answers your question. So it's about keeping your hands safe.
I had a question for you. I think you probably would know the answer. How many fights are there on a fight card like at the Hard Rock? How many main fights would you be involved in that night?
Well, we do every single fight from beginning to end, even the
Prelims?
prelims,
So
yeah.
how many would there be roughly?
Including the prelims, probably about anywhere from like 10 to 13.
Okay.
There's a lot.
So I think they start around 8 o'clock, and then the main ones come on at 9
Yeah.
or something to that effect.
Yeah, it all depends how many knockouts we have. But I want to make a point. I know how you said about the gloves not protecting the other person's face, but bare knuckle, the difference is with boxing is it's a lot bloodier. So I think the gloves kind of do play a part in protecting the other person's face, but you're totally right. The force of the punch is
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah, it's a
reminds
whole
me of a
different animal.
movie. This is an old movie from the 90s. I think it was either Bloodsport or Kickboxer now. I can't remember which one. But there was a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a kickboxing match, and they covered their fists in glass. So they had like shredded glass and water, and they would dip their fists. You ever see that movie?
You're taking
they
me down a whole
survive?
different path here, Teddy.
So
I don't know.
there was an.
I'm
there-
trying to talk to her. I don't know what the glass and.
Well, because she mentioned blood, and that
Yeah,
was
no,
bloody.
I get
so.
it.
Well, pre UFC,
It's like,
remember Kimbo? They had fights in Overtown
Yeah,
in
backyard
people's
fights.
backyards. I think bare knuckle. I mean, that was pre UFC. These guys were. We're talking about
Well,
the real
that's-
deal, man.
that's how Masvidal-
Overtown and all those
yeah.
areas down in Miami.
That's how Masvidal got his start. He's from Miami, and he fought
Kimbo
back
Slice.
in Kimbo's
Kimbo
day,
Slice,
right? Rest
yeah.
in peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But he fought back in Kimbo's day, and now I think he's trying to start some type of bare knuckle league as well. That's
Well, you know what? The organization she works for, they're number one out there. They're going to bust it out. I've heard some rumors from different people. I mean, I talked to a lot of people out there, and they're talking about they're trying to bring some big-time names in. And when you bring big-time names in, you're going to pay them damn good money, and they're going to put people in those seats. So this thing can only, I think for you, it's going to be great because you got in at the right time, and I'm sure you love what you're doing there, and, you know, you're doing your...
Absolutely.
you're doing
I'm ready
you're
to
re-
take off with it.
You ready to go?
Yeah, let's
can,
go.
Can you work more events, or are you limited to what you can do? I mean, is there so many events a year? Or
As far as bare knuckle,
yeah,
I can really work as many as I'm chosen. You know, we have about 7, 8 girls that we stick with, so they kind of do keep it fair.
right.
And then, like I said, since I live on the East Coast, I do most of the East Coast ones. So
Now, where on the East Coast, like, would they're not, are they going in smaller venues? Like the Hard Rock's a smaller venue. It's
yeah,
not
we
an
do.
arena.
Yeah, we're doing like a small town in Virginia pretty soon.
Okay.
We're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and some of these fights are definitely in smaller venues. But
All right. Can you tell us? I know you mentioned to me the other day you were checking to see if they would allow you to mention fights coming up. But any other fights after this one that you could talk about that are coming up in certain cities, so people, our audience, maybe can check it out?
Yeah. We are going to be in Virginia, I believe, the first week of March, and then I think it's mid-March. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
we're going back to Albuquerque. We just signed to go back there, so
Would you be part of that event in Albuquerque or no?
we'll find out.
Okay, secret. I got you. Well, listen, we really appreciate the insights. I mean, I'm excited about it. I got to be honest with you because I've followed a lot of different combat sports. I mean, they call it combat? Is it a combat
Yes,
sport?
it is combat sport.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure I was getting it right. I mean, I was part of the UFC. I went to UFC 100. I went to UFC 200. I'm going to UFC 300 this year. I've gone to a lot of events. I've gone to a ton of boxing through my years, big-time boxing events. And I did enjoy, believe it or not. I mean, we went to 2 of them at the Hard Rock, and it was pretty cool. And the people are like, your crowd is a different. I think they're even a more intense crowd. And
They're
get me
amazing.
wrong. I don't know if you've ever gone to UFC fights or anything like that.
I've seen, but
Yeah, but I think your crowd is a little more intense.
What would you say the demographics is, the age group that go to these fights?
it's really anywhere from children with their parents to people in their 20s, 30s. It's
like
all
guys like
ages.
us. You could say older guys like us.
No, young guys like you as well.
There you go. We appreciate that.
Interesting.
Listen, if you have anywhere people can find you or you want to promote anything, we'd love, promote your social media if you're interested in doing that while you're on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if we have her information. No, we don't have her info. But if you want to give,
Yeah, I
a
can
way
give it to
people
you
can
guys.
reach you and check you out, we're all for it. Go right ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. On all social media platforms, it's at Alyssa Spivak. It's ALYSSASPIVACK.
See, she said it right. How come I didn't say her name right?
I've had practice.
Alyssa Spivak. Spivak. There you
Spivak,
go.
Spivak.
Well, Alyssa, we really appreciate you coming on our show, and we're excited about the future of the bare knuckles, no doubt about it. I'm going to be there Friday night. I think I'm taking my little guy with me. He's already been asking me, so maybe we'll run into you out there. But
Your little guy's not so little, really.
no, he's 6'3", and he's 6'3". He's not so little.
You springing for the expensive seats or what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With him? Are you kidding me? If I don't take him to the best seats, I hear about it the whole way there and the whole way
All
home
right.
until the next event.
It's got to look good on social media when he takes his videos and stuff. It's got to look close.
Well, we got to get friendly with Alyssa because then she can maybe introduce us to some of the bigger fighters down the road, take a photo or something with for the show. But we really appreciate you coming on.
Definitely.
And best of luck with the show this coming up Friday night. It's guys, it's at the Hard Rock hotel and casino right here in Fort Hollywood, Florida. And it is is there a certain number for this fight, or you don't really know? I don't know.
57.
Yeah, 57.
Oh, there you go. Big
See,
kahuna.
I did
Big
a little
kahuna.
did a little research this morning.
You saved me there.
Well, listen, have a great show, and we'd like to bring you back down the road when there's some big events. So if you want to announce something for yourself, feel free to come on a show anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were a great guest. Thanks so much.
Yeah, make sure you guys
thank you.
tune in on Friday to Bare Knuckle 57.
And you'll be posting stuff on your social media and things like
of
that. So,
course.
guys, check her out. She's the real deal. She works hard at what she does, and it's a great venue. You check, if you like UFC and you're into that type of stuff, you're probably going to like the Bare Knuckle. I've got a funny feeling. So check her out. And again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, there you go. You can't get a better situation than that.
Absolutely.
The Bare Knuckle, I'll tell you, it's pretty damn exciting, Big Kahuna.
Hats off to those guys, man.
I'm gonna
Think
stick
about
you.
it.
I think I'm going to stick
Yeah,
you in
no,
there.
I mean, that's the real, these are the real warriors, those guys. Going in there, bare knuckles, no gloves, no head. No, I mean, come on now. It's
I think
like,
that's a Teddy sport.
that's
I
all,
can
that's,
see Teddy going in there.
That's just,
Definitely not.
that's
Come
just
on.
brawling. That's just brawling,
but
man.
let me tell you something. What I think, and this is a little off topic, but I have to just put my 2 cents in here.
Yeah.
I think that the direction that the UFC is going is very good, and I think what brings a lot of people to the UFC, and not to get too political on a sports show, but Dana White lets his fighters do and say whatever they want. Whereas these leagues like NFL, NBA, the leagues that we talk about every day, these athletes are really constricted.
Of course.
And Dana White lets his fighters do whatever they want, and it attracts people. It's grown so much.
Does not? I don't know if he. Not to disagree totally with you, but I think that they clamp down on certain.
They haven't. I'll tell you why. Did you see Sean Strickland's interview?
Yeah, that was a little.
He was crazy. I mean, I'm not going to repeat the things he said because I
Right,
don't want to
of
get
course.
banned from YouTube on this show. But he went nuts, and then they asked Dana White about it, and Dana White said 2 words.
Yeah.
He said free speech.
Well, he said F you also.
Yeah. Well, once again, I want to keep
well,
it.
he's an outspoken character. I mean, you got to give him all the credit in the world. He built that thing up from ground zero. You could call him arrogant, you could call him what you want, but he's good.
Yeah.
I mean, he is who he is. He's outspoken. He's a tough guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he'd be a tough individual to do business with, I think.
Major respect.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah.
I want to just touch on a couple of quick things before we call it a day because we had a great guest on. I really enjoyed that little interview there because I like different things that are going on out there.
By all means.
You know what I mean? We're so jacked up about what we do.
Are you going to the fight?
Yeah, I am.
Are you going to the fight?
No, sir.
I'm going to be at Hard Rock next weekend
Yeah.
for Frankie Valley.
Wow. Can't take my eyes off of you,
take
huh?
my dad because my dad's from Jersey. My dad was born and raised in Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
And that
How
was
old is he?
Frankie Valley?
Yeah.
Oh,
About
he's got to be in his 80s. Yeah.
He's great, though.
I'm just curious. I'm so excited to see if he could still hit those notes because he's not just a
he'll
regular
hit 'em.
singer.
He'll hit
It's
'em.
amazing that these guys are still entertaining, man,
And
in
hitting-
their 80s.
Exactly.
What about the guy we just met, the father of Tony Orlando? He's
yeah.
still going.
Yeah.
John
yeah,
Orlando.
No, it's
was just-
amazing. Tom Jones is like 85.
Yeah,
He's
know.
out there still. It's
They know how to-
amazing.
they know how to bring it, man.
Rolling Stones.
Hey, I just got to ask you guys, what do you think of this? Before I want to just touch base.
let's talk about
obviously
football a
what
little
we
bit.
know best. This Super Bowl game. I mean, we don't have to. There's no picks or anything at this point because we got a lot of research and stuff.
That'll
to
be
look at.
next week, guys. We'll have those picks ready next week.
Definitely.
What were your thoughts, honestly, of the matchup, Teddy? What's your thoughts?
So
on
my
this?
thoughts were that I was rooting big time for our local guy, Lamar Jackson, who's from 30 minutes away, right?
Yeah.
And it's starting to seem like the spotlight gets to him. I mean, he made mistakes. And don't get me wrong, that team just looked immature. Zay Flowers fumbling the ball in the end zone. Zay Flowers with the unsportsmanlike conduct where he got on top of the guy and started chirping and got called with that penalty. That Baltimore game looked like a game. All the talk about Harbaugh, the other Harbaugh coming, it looked like Harbaugh just didn't have control of his team, and it looked like Lamar Jackson, the spotlight affected him going to the other game, and of course Patrick Mahomes is just so good.
The king, man. Come
He's
on.
the king. And now here's an argument.
We talked about it.
I've been having this argument with a lot of my friends. They say that if Patrick Mahomes wins a couple more Super Bowls in the next couple of years, he's going to surpass Brady as the GOAT. And I just don't see that.
They're already making comparisons right now, as crazy as it sounds.
Here's my problem.
Through the first 7 years.
He's 28. He needs to do it into his mid to late 30s at least in order to be able to take that crown. But I digress. Let me go to the other game. Brock Purdy showed the fortitude to come back.
100%.
And
I got to go to Big Kahuna because I know he's.
well, real quick, I'm sticking with San Fran. I know public's all over KC, but I really like. That's not my official prediction.
We may have another double or nothing going. I think.
know you love KC and Mahomes.
We may
I
have
already
another
know.
double
I already
or
know
nothing
you're
going
going
there,
KC.
Mr. Teddy. If you keep firing those words out, we may have that. Big Kahuna, what was your thoughts on those games?
Well,
just
I
the way-
mean, listen, the NFL got the two teams they wanted as far
we
as
got Taylor Swift.
yeah, that's a whole nother story. I mean, there's a lot of what gets me is the NFL's fixed. I mean, come on now. The best two teams won. Lions fell apart in the second half. You could, Dan Campbell. You could question.
I mean, do
his
you really
calls.
call it a fall apart though? Maybe it's just San Fran just
Nah,
took off. and
how many missed
turned it up.
How many? They dropped a few passes that should have been easily caught.
Okay,
The
yeah.
guy fumbles in the end zone. The guy has the ball out like this. What did he expect?
Well, you're talking about the Ravens game.
The Ravens.
No, it was in the
That was the Ravens game. Zay
Excuse me.
Flowers fumbled.
Flowers,
right,
yeah.
right. But listen, it's going to be a tough game to choose. I think the angle, and we're going to be talking about this next week, is definitely props. Is where you can make some nice
Oh my
money.
God! How many props will there be?
Yeah, well,
like 2,000,
that's
5,000?
the angle. But the Lions fell apart. The two best teams are there, and we'll see. The line opened at 2.5. Quickly, it was bet down to 1.5. So the money did come in on KC. Tough to go against Mahomes, but let's see what comes up in the next week.
I think you guys are starting to realize how tough it is to go against this guy. Everyone was saying, oh, he's going on the road. He's won all his games at home. You know what? He keeps showing up. He keeps doing what he does. He keeps being productive. He keeps moving the ball. He keeps his feet. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, it's pretty unreal.
What do you think the line would have been if it was KC Lions?
KC, I think, would have been about a 4.5 point favorite. 4.5, 5 points, I think, opening number.
And he hates losing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
But
people,
when you have that in your blood, I mean,
people make fun of him for his temper tantrums, but after kind of sitting back and thinking about it, I think it just really shows how much he hates losing. And some people don't hate losing as much as he does, and he's never done anything but
the
win.
word losing is not in the
Yeah,
vocabulary.
it
That's
just-
the difference.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know?
part of
it's
his.
taught by his father, too, who was a professional baseball player.
Right.
You remember he pitched for the Mets, I think, for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But, listen, we got a great game coming up in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, obviously, and we're going to be here breaking it down next week big time. And I'm curious to see what the boys on the set have to say versus what I'm thinking. And we'll talk about that next week. I just wanted to touch a little bit before we go. If you guys want to talk about it, you don't have to at this point, but college basketball. I'm going to give you my point right now. I mean, you could pick up on it after, but I see only two teams that are just steadily dominating at this point in time, which is the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, UConn and
Purdue.
Purdue, correct. Thank you.
I'm using Purdue tonight just for if I could throw out a little plug, laying 13.5 against Northwestern.
Yeah, I just see so much inconsistently, like Kansas's, the Kentucky's. I mean, I just see right now those two teams, unless they fall apart somehow or an injury or something, they're going to be the dominating forces in college basketball this year. And I don't know if you noticed this, Teddy, because you're pretty big on the college. But how about all these ranked teams going into unranked teams and losing this year? The numbers are the lowest they've been in so many years. These unranked teams are beating these ranked teams more so than ever.
So now that football's over, I spent some of my Saturday watching college basketball, and it really reminded me, because when it comes to college basketball, I really just look at numbers, and I bet numbers, and I don't really watch a lot of games.
Right.
So I watched some games on Saturday, and it reminded me that the quality of play between college basketball and the NBA the gap is so much bigger, in my opinion, than the quality gap between college football and the NFL. It's really interesting. I was watching the Dayton-Richmond game, and I had a little wager on Dayton, which I was incorrect about. They lost. But boy, oh boy, they scored like 30-some points in the first half. And then in the second half, they came out and scored 100. Think about that. You got teams scoring 30 combined, 35, whatever, combined points in one half. And then the second half, scoring 100 combined
It's
points.
like it makes you think, what the hell just happened
What
here?
is it does. It makes you think what goes on. But
I've never seen so many big leads been blown, too.
Dayton
Team gets way out in the first half, falls apart in the second half.
I'm talking about UCF this weekend. They were an 8-point dog. At halftime, they were up by double digits. They ended up losing by double digits. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, Tennessee last night against South Carolina. They're laying a bunch. They lose by like 10 points.
I think you had a big play last night in the.
Well, I had
crushed.
Illinois
Illinois,
of Ohio
they-
State.
they won easy.
You can catch some value in college
I
hoops.
love college hoops.
Yeah, college hoops, once again, we've
NBA
spoke about
so-
this. Sharp professional guys, they feast on college basketball. You catch these numbers.
The numbers are great.
Yeah.
There's numbers that you can feast on, like you said.
You can. I mean, you ever see some of these totals move 4 or 5 points from the opening number? The sharps are just pounding this stuff literally as soon as it opens.
And here's something I'll say to the viewers about college hoops. Keep on trucking. Don't let a big loss discourage you, because you're going to bet a game one time and that bet's going to get blown out. But that means nothing. You know, they're going to come back and you'll be okay. Now, I did want to, me, I like to bring some stuff to the table here.
Oh, boy.
Top 10 teams against the spread right now in college basketball. Number 1, Minnesota.
Give the top five. We gotta get rolling.
All right. Number 1, Minnesota, 17-3. Number 2, Richmond, 16-4.
Playing great. They're
I
playing
wish
great.
I knew about Richmond.
Spiders.
I wish I knew about it before I bet Dayton against them on Saturday.
Yep.
Number 3, Morehead State, Texas A&M Community College, number 4, and Southern Utah, number 5. So these teams really aren't big name top. I mean, Minnesota kind of, but Richmond is always a sleeper type of team. But these aren't, top 10
And most
teams.
people don't even follow those teams that closely. That's the funny part about it. And like as Teddy's saying, look at the value on some of these smaller teams that you could be making money with.
Big time value.
That's why you got to watch all these games, guys. We preach this stuff all the time. We've been doing this stuff so long, we do it in our sleep, basically. You got to follow certain teams. And, sometimes you can see when they're on that projection, and sometimes you can see when they're going on that downslope. So, you really got to watch what you're doing this time of the year. But listen, we had a great show, and I enjoyed it, especially when Alyssa was on doing her thing with the bare knuckles. Obviously, a quiet week for us because there's no football. We're trying to figure out where we're going here. In the NBA, I just want to mention 2 things. A tale of 2 different directions. Talking about a tale of 2. The New York Knicks, hottest team in the
Wow,
NBA,
amazing.
playing phenomenal since they made their
trade.
And the Miami Heat cannot find the win, guys. Picture that. The worst run right now, Eric Spoelstra's career, is happening right now.
Right after he signed that contract.
After paying him $1 trillion.
He'll get it back together.
He got the $120 million.
I just wanted to drop something on the NBA, too, that I was reading about and I noticed. So, the NBA has a new rule that in order to max out your contract, you have to play at least 65 regular season games. And they did that because a lot of guys are taking off, right? Now, here's the weird...
Well, that's why they did that in-season tournament. They wanted the guys to keep playing.
Now, here's the weird side effect of that. Players are now, when they're kind of in the middle of being hurt and being healthy, whereas before they would take off and make sure they got fully healthy, now they're playing, and that was evident with Joel Embiid, who's been having a very, very
been
good
in and
year.
out of the lineup.
He's hurt now, not looking too good for him.
You know what blows my mind, though? From a gambling standpoint, because that's what the business we're in is trying to help you guys get the betting edge. They don't announce these players until so late now. It's all like game time decisions, illness. They don't really make it clear. It's really strange, more so this year, that a lot of these players, they're not adjusting the line, and all of a sudden out of nowhere they adjust these lines 3-4 points very late, and it just kind of makes it tough, to really get a gauge on certain teams with with the way that the injury reports are being released out.
Well, that's the good thing about football. You get a whole week to say, okay, he didn't practice Wednesday, he didn't practice Thursday, and the more practices they miss, the more likely that they're not going to play. And then in baseball, you got the 10 days and the 15 days where it's just boom, you're on the bench for 10 days. That's all there is to it, and you can kind of plan accordingly. In basketball, it's really hard to plan accordingly.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate, listen, I am excited because my stomach is a little growling for that steak dinner, so I'm hoping that I get it this week. Ben, you think these guys are going to show up at the dinner table for me?
We got to bring Ben with us to bring a camera so we could show you eating the steak and everything.
Well, Ben's not showing up unless he's eating the steak with us. I can tell you that. There's no doubt about it.
Proof.
All right, listen, Big Kahuna. Tell the people where they can find you each and every day. You're putting out some great winning information. You've been consistent on social media.
We had a good night last night. Instagram, I'm putting up at least 2 videos a day, OSB_sports. My YouTube, OSB-sports. And check out the website, onlinesportsbet.com.
All right. Here he is, man. The man himself, Teddy Brooks. Where can they find you, Teddy?
So you can go
Let's go. Are you still hot, by the way? You were 32-13 or something last time we were here.
So funny story. I haven't really been giving out much free stuff. We've been kind of getting ready for the transition out of football. So we've only given a few games since then.
Okay.
And we've pretty much broken even. Guys, you know me, I'm transparent. Pretty much broken even. So we're like 35-15 right now over the last 50, which is still good. But since the last time I was on the show, we're like 3 and since
that's
last
free?
week we're like 3
That's
and
free
3
stuff?
for free.
I mean,
So,
what do you mean?
yeah.
That's great.
Well, right, but since last week we're 3 and 3.
Okay.
But yeah, we're 35-15, and Instagram at _profits with a PH _pick no S. YouTube.com/@thesportsprofits. You can see me, my boy Billy the Beard, giving away our picks. And by the way, guys, we're going to be back on this show next week giving Super Bowl picks. And moving forward, we got
to start going to basketball, guys. Come on now.
Basketball. And here's the thing I think that I want to do. I think that we should be doing a lot of going live on Instagram while we're filming the show. You weren't here, Tommy, but me and Scotty went live, and we answered some questions that the audience had.
Yeah, that was cool.
So I think we got to start bringing that back.
We didn't get cursed out, thank God.
No, they're very. My audience is very respectful.
All right, guys, we had a great show. Look forward to next week. Put your thinking caps on, guys, because we got the Super Bowl. You know everyone's going to be listening to us for dear life to see who we're going to come up with. Super Bowl's been damn good to me over the years, so I'm going to be working this one. I'm kind of already know where I'm going, but I'll talk about it next week.
Real quick. Hockey's on break. All-Star break coming up, right? Yeah.
Until February 5th. They just kick back in.
So when's the All-Star game? Fill us in here.
It's this weekend.
It's the 3rd, right?
Yeah, and you got 2 players for the Reinhardt and Borowski, the goalie for the Panthers, is part of the All-Star weekend.
Panthers.
I heard some. I'm sorry. Before I cut off, I heard that some players were arrested in the NHL. Did you hear about that?
Some sex accusation.
In Canada, right?
Yeah, there was like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
A bunch of players.
We'll
we'll have to dig into that a little deeper. Guys, I'm Scott Matthews. I'm the host of the show each and every week. The name of the show, remember it, OSB Sports Podcast. And you could check me out each and every day. I put everything out for free. Yeah, I don't win them all. No one's going to win them all. I do my best I can. We put them up sometimes as early as 2 days before the game, so it's hard to gauge as much information as we like. But check out my TikTok at SMPicks, P-I-C-K-S, and also on Instagram at SMSportsPicks, P-I-C-K-S. And we're going to be back here next week. Check the show out on all podcast forums, all of them. We're talking Spotify. We're talking Apple. And we'll be back here next week. Have a great day. See you soon.
All right, very good.